What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here with a name you know. You're going to see him, Maple Leaf Wrestling Mayhem, March 14th, March 15th. Another two-night event. So excited about this. The first one was a hit. We've got Scott D'Amore here. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Sean.
So, I mean, man, we are just, as we film this, a few days away from Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Mayhem. The first one, you had to feel great about the way that the audience took to that. I mean, like people loved it. I felt like it was a big shot in the arm for independent wrestling as well. How did you feel about how people responded to that?
Yeah, I mean, I was very touched and very happy with the response to the show, and very happy and very proud of everybody coming together to put the events on. It is a daunting task to start from scratch.
And when you're doing something like that,
Team
sorry,
come together.
your audio cut out on me. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
To have everybody come together to have I certainly won't say seamless or perfect, nothing ever is, but I think the broadcast was top notch. I was really proud of how the product looked and how we presented it, and I thought the two nights wrestling action was as good as anything out there in the world. So I was just so proud of everybody coming together, and was just honored to be able to be part of that, and putting it together. And Maple Leaf Pro, the brand Maple Leaf is back, and we're just so excited here. We head into our next events here, Mayhem, and we're ready to rock.
So in going to a second event, I mean, this time you got Serena Deeb, Kylie Ray, the former Baron Corbin, Bishop Dyer, Giselle Shaw, Stu Grayson, Ishimori, a lot of familiar names again. That's just night one. Night two, there's like the Kingdom and Kushida, Kevin Knight, who's one of the hottest free agents out there, Billy Gunn, Matt Cardona, like tons of names here. What is the thought process that you go into balancing putting these names that everybody knows and then finding newer talent that people might not know?
Yeah, look, I think that's a great question, and that gets to the core of our mission statement or mandate, and that is we want to provide a platform specifically for Canadians, but also for other people from anywhere in the world to go out there and to get an opportunity to showcase their talents for people to see. Because when you are outside of the United States, it's so hard to get opportunities at times in this industry. So this is a chance, without all of the immigration hurdles and all the troubles that come with that, to be on a platform that I'm very proud that we were putting together, that it is really getting eyeballs and getting people talking about it and watching it, so that we can showcase that young talent, and also develop it, right? That's why we have so many good people behind the scenes, both working on the wrestling side and the production side, to help tutor, mentor, and help this talent, this next generation of talent, get TV ready. And I think you have to find the right combination of people want to see established stars, and they want to see stars within their prime, and then they want to see the up and comers. And one of the things we found over the years is that people really love after the fact, and you probably know this, Sean, to be able to say, I saw so and so when. So, like, when you look at this
Yes.
event and you look at Kaito Kiyomiya, who's the ace in Noah, three-time GHC champion, and had that feud with Okada last year. Excuse me. And you
Great match
see,
with Gabe Kidd that I saw as well. Like just
yeah,
incredible stuff.
yeah, and here he comes back. This is a return for him, because this is a guy who lived here in Windsor. If you were around in 2017, 2018, you saw Kaito Kiyomiya when he was just starting out as a
Mhm.
teenager. Same thing with Kushida, right? If you were here in 2007, 2008, you got to see, Kushida when he was, just a baby. Like, to me, it's so hard. I see Kushida, and in my brain, he's still this 20-year-old kid, but really he's an adult. He's a man. He's a husband. He's a father. But these wrestlers who cut their teeth here years ago come back and help provide the platform and help teach and elevate the young talent. So for every Mike Rollins you have, for every Michael Allen, Richard Clark, for every Kevin Knight, as you mentioned, these young guys, you want to have people that have been there and are still there, and you want to have people that have real knowledge in and out of the ring. So having a guy like Bishop Dyer, who formerly Baron Corbin, coming here, and one of his first big matches since leaving WWE, that's huge. Having a guy like Billy Gunn, who's been around for decades now and seen so much and has a mind for teaching and mentoring, having him around is so helpful. Just like it's helpful to having a vice president like QT Marshall here, not just wrestling, but keeping an eye on talent and helping and having it called by Mauro Ranallo and Don Callis. Like I think it's a great mix when you have guys that have been there, done that, and are kind of looking, more so at, just kind of like having fun in I'll say the latter third of their career, and having guys like Kaito and that who are and Bishop Dyer, Baron Corbin, who are in their prime, and having up and comers, Zoe Sager and Bhupinder Gujjar, and like you said, Kevin Knight, and all these people that are just coming up, and you're just going to see more and more from them over the next 5 and 10 years. So to me, it's really when we do wrestling right, like Jimmy Hart told me years ago, wrestling's like the circus. There's something for everybody. And you may like the acrobat, somebody else may like the person being shot out of the cannon, somebody else may like the clown car, but we just find ways
Yes.
to entertain people and have fun, and hopefully when we're doing it right, create moments that people remember and cherish.
That's why I don't get like so much of the aggressiveness about what people do and don't like. I'm like, I'm not big into supernatural movies or ghosts and goblins. I like more reality based horror. But I'm not going to go online and bury somebody for liking the stuff that I don't like. But in
Right.
wrestling, it seems very prevalent. People are like, I can't believe you'd watch that. Well, then disbelieve it and move on. I don't know. Uh,
Right.
I am interested in learning what you thought when a fella who was on night is on night two of Maple Leaf Mayhem, PCO, took a sledgehammer to the TNA Digital Championship
Yeah.
on GCW. I did an extensive interview with him about it. And I was like, why'd you do it? And he's like, I just kind of thought it'd be cool.
Yeah, that. I mean, that kind of sums up PCO, and whether he's Perfect Creation One or Pierre Carl or Quebecer, he's a guy who's been in this business like we've talked about for decades, who has an unbelievable ability to reinvent himself, and is somebody who loves and is passionate about wrestling. I mean, I saw the footage, and I mean, I guess maybe it created a stir. It's not usually my approach with things, like I don't know if it's exactly what I've done, but it seems to fit right in perfectly with PCO and that. So I mean, I guess like it created a little buzz, so that's good. I try to, as much as possible, deflect and stay away from the negativity and try to promote the positivity. So I know that PCO was leaving TNA and everything else, and was still the champion. So I guess that was his opportunity to kind of make a statement in that, and he did it, and that's his choice. We're excited to have PCO here and be part of these events and be the crazy, wonky, supernatural character that he does so well.
So I had heard when I was at the AEW Cincinnati show, get a little message, and somebody's like, "Oh, Scott and Giselle are running around. They're here. I'm interested." First off, what had you in Cincinnati, my near neck of the woods, and at AEW recently?
Look, we were flying back we'd done a with cruise. My cousin, who I had raised as like a son of mine, got married on New Year's Eve on a cruise, and then we stuck around in Florida for a little bit of time and tried to take in a little bit of sun. A little colder than we'd have liked in January down there with that cold snap, but much better than being up here in Canada. And then on the way home, it's just like, sometimes in business you have to pop by and have to have FaceTime with people and be face to face. And the fact is that when you look at this, making sure that we have Don Callis at the desk next to Mauro Ronaldo, forming what I think, respectful to any other team, is the best commentary team in professional wrestling, and having QT Marshall up here, and being able to get Billy Gunn and the Kingdom and Serena Deeb, like these things, and these relationships take managing, and we've always tried to maintain and have a good relationship with AEW and everybody else, and that was kind of it, going there and just chatting, seeing where we can work together and what might make sense now and what might make sense in the future. One of the legacies of Maple Leaf Wrestling, the original Wrestling, whatever banner they were under, WWF, AWA, NWA. It didn't matter. They could come to Maple Leaf Gardens, they could come to Maple Leaf Wrestling and perform. And that's one of the things I'm proudest about this when you look at it. You got Kiyomiya from Noah. You've got Ishimori and Kushida and Kevin Knight from New Japan. You've got the folks I just mentioned from AEW. There's unfortunately there's no TNA representation. They had shows the very same night, so that's not possible this
Yeah.
time. But we have people from all over coming here. We have the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion coming here and defending the title. The last time that the NWA title was defended in Windsor was 20 years ago, and it was a
My
title
God.
change that I think sent shocks through wrestling, right? It ended up being known as controversy in Canada, and it's what launched the golden age of TNA wrestling on Spike TV. So I think having all these, we have WWE ID talent here, right? And Kylie Ray and Zoe Sager, and it's like, having all these different brands and promotions come here and have people representing them, I think is what makes wrestling really kind of cool and fun when it's done right. Like they all have their home base and they have their stuff they do there, but they can come here and intermingle and play in a different sandbox for a couple nights.
I love that. And I had mentioned this to you before, but I'm interested in how it's gone now that you're in event two. There are a plethora of cities that I know that you're familiar with that you can run and you can choose to run. And how do you go about deciding like where this event will be, where your next event will be? I know you had mentioned Maple Leaf Gardens as a place as well. Like, how do you go about that, especially as someone like you who is so adept at that? None of this is new to you.
Well, I mean, I like to think and hope that I'm learning and adapting and evolving every day. So I think that's important in business and in life. I mean, look, this event is back in Windsor, which is great. We'll have two. Like as I look at it, I think we're near sold out both nights. So we'll have two great packed houses again, and we'll have rowdy crowds, right? Like Windsor, you saw it with TNA and Impact and BCW over the years. They're always a great rowdy crowd. So I think coming here is always a great option, but it's important that we get outside of the safety zone of here. And that's why we announced in May we're going to be in Toronto and we're going to be returning to the corner of Church and Carlton Street, which is the former Maple Leaf Gardens, right? It's now called the Mattamy Athletic Center, but it's Maple Leaf Gardens in all of our hearts. It still has that iconic yellow brick. It still has the marquee out front that says Maple Leaf Gardens. It still has you walking in the arena because I just did the site visit. And even though it's not a 17,500 seat arena anymore, it's a 3,000 and change. When you walk in there and you look up, it's the same roof. It's that same iconic roof that I walked in as a 10-year-old child to go see my first Toronto Maple Leafs game. And I think that's going to be a cool, special moment in our history, returning to our spiritual home. But then we want to get out and get to other cities. So yeah, like you see there's we're a Canadian brand. We're gonna be running predominantly and maybe exclusively in Canada for the most part, with exceptions of maybe some co-partnerships or something that may come along, but co-promotions. But look, from Vancouver to Calgary to Winnipeg to Toronto and Ottawa to Montreal, like maybe it's time for another screw job. I don't know. Out to Eastern Canada, there's so many towns, and we want to get out there and do it and get to all of them. But there's a lot of hurdles in that. There's a lot of logistics. So I think this next move in May is a huge one. Going to Toronto, which is obviously the biggest city here in Canada, and such a unbelievable wrestling town. You just saw what WWE did there with Elimination Chamber and that moment that they created with John Cena and Cody and The Rock. And Toronto deserves to have Canada's own wrestling brand, Maple Leaf Pro, there in the center of the country, and then we spawn out from there. So we've got other cities in the mix for later this year, and you'll see some of those announcements starting to come soon. But I'm excited. It's time to branch it outside of Windsor. It's time to get other places. But before we do that, we got 2 more days where we celebrate Windsor and what it's meant to wrestling. You look at it when we moved Impact out of the studio, which had kind of became a really kind of downer of an environment by the time I got there in 2018. We wanted to take it out on the road and get it to wrestling fans. First place we took it is Windsor because we knew we'd fill the building for a couple days, and we knew that the fans would be loud and rowdy. So we want to celebrate that. Windsor will always be a part of what we do. And this weekend is going to be a huge 2-day event for us. But then we'll get it out and we'll take it around the loop, as we used to say. And then, sometime in the future, be back to Windsor at some point. But we celebrate it this weekend for 2 days. Then we look to the future at Maple Leaf Gardens.
I love it. Another thing that kind of made some waves, you popping up at the WWPC or a little bit of everywhere. What cruise did you go on that week?
That one was different, actually. I mean, I also went to the Jaguars game that week too. I mean, that seems to
Okay.
get.
Oh, listen,
That's
that
yeah.
one's
I
got some
mean,
questions tied to it too. Then.
I guess I was less recognizable at the Jaguars game than I was at the PC. But I mean, look, at my heart, I'm a coach and I'm a teacher, and I want to help teach people. I want to help, encourage and nurture and help develop talent. And I always say my adventures in Anthem, my adventures in TNA Impact Wrestling started. I could title the book "A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the PC," because when I stopped in the Impact office for the first time in 2017, before I'd even really joined, when Jeff Jarrett was running things, I was actually on the way down to Florida, like I usually am, to in February for my mother's birthday. And Jeff Jarrett convinced me to stop in Nashville, and I stopped in Nashville for a couple days and chatted, and he convinced me to come back a couple weeks later. So I was actually, I messaged out and reached out to people at the PC and said, "Hey, just so you know, I'm at the Impact offices. I don't want anything to get out and you to think there's anything up." And they had said, "Are you working there now?" And I said, "No. I don't know where this is going to lead." And they said, "Well, when you finish up, let us know and then come down, right?" Because I already had a prearranged tour and everything set up there at the PC at that time. Because I thought the engagement, it was a consulting gig. I thought it was going to last,
Yeah.
maybe a month, at the tops 2 months, and it went on for 7 years. So
Yeah.
I finally got a chance to go down and see the WBPC, and it's I don't know. Have you been there, Sean?
I've not. I'm
Yeah.
planning on going maybe this year, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool place. I mean, the Capitol Center where they shoot out of, it's great how they maximize the space, and it's not large, but I mean, it looks so good. And the training facilities, it's Eric Young had told me years ago about it. He said, he's like, "Coach," he's like, "it's everything you think a wrestling school looks like until you show up at a barn or a abandoned building where the wrestling school actually is." And that's completely accurate. I mean, when you look at it with they've got training rings and high spot rings, and they've got like a two full gyms. It seemed like they have the trainers and everybody on staff to manage and maintain your physical wealth or your physical well-being and your health. And it's just like literally it's wrestling, it's wrestler nirvana. Like, if you're going to learn how to be a wrestler, like, this is the environment that we probably all dreamed about being in, right? And it's getting closer to the experience that athletes in other sports experience when they're elite athletes in training to hopefully succeed in their field. So it was just an opportunity to go down there and tour it, visit some friends, and it was a great experience. I mean, I was really impressed with what they have down there.
Now, I know you were integral in kind of launching what TNA and WWE have like between them. What are your thoughts on their expanded partnership that we're seeing?
I mean, I think it's a win for everybody. It's a win for WWE, who has so many talents under contract, and I think needs places to rep people and certainly get them in a different environment. It's a win for TNA because they get the association with the industry leader, the biggest company in the world. They get an opportunity to expose some of their talent on a larger platform with NXT, and wrestling fans win because it's exciting and fun. Jeff Jarrett and I chatted the other day, and it's like, I said to Jeff, I said, it's crazy because I think you and I, Double, were two of the people who, years before it was in vogue, were preaching collaboration is king. Companies need to work together. We need to break down some of these artificial walls. So I was a firm believer in that, and That's why we fostered and really rebuilt that relationship between TNA and New Japan. That's why it was important to try to build a relationship with AEW. That's why it was important to reach out and see if WWE, with the new regime and everything, if they had different ears that were open to listening. And I think that the partnership is good for wrestling. I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of downsides to it right now. Now the real tell will be how is it in 3 or 5 years, and how's it look then. So I mean, I don't know where it ends up. I don't know how it goes, but it's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan for sure.
So Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling this weekend, second event. Well, I guess you could argue third, fourth event. What were your thoughts coming out of it? Were you satisfied? Was it something where you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this better, or you looked at it and you were like, okay, this this is how I envisioned it? Because I mean, I can tell you, a whole lot of people came out of that event and they're like, man, this is something that wrestling need, especially in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I think Canada has such a rich wrestling history, and I think sometimes we lose sight of that, and Canadians, just like all non-Americans, sometimes need a little bit of help because it is a harder obstacle to get opportunities when you're not American. And I'll never forget when Bret Hart first kind of became the guy, like as a talent still, but as world champion in WWF. One of the first things he did was cover his pool in his house with a wrestling ring and starting bringing Canadian wrestlers there. And he brought in Leo Burke, who's a legend and was just a great wrestler who had taught Brett so much. And though I had the honor of wrestling many nights. And he brought in Leo there and had him start working with the young talent like Edge and Christian and so many others, because he wanted to make sure that Canadian wrestling thrived. I think right now today there's so much great Canadian talent out there, and I think it needs a platform. So being able to deliver that and being able to slap that maple leaf on our chest and proudly be Canadian while still embracing and focusing, on talent from all over the world, including the U.S. I think was I think the timing was near perfect. And how did I feel coming out of those shows? Like I said, like I was, over the moon, happy and excited, right? At the production crew, just nailed it. I mean, for a first time crew, there's so many industry. I might have froze there for a second. There was a phone
Yeah,
call.
you did.
Um, I thought the shows were just Jesus. These guys won't stop. Am I good there?
Yeah, yeah, you're good.
Okay. So look, I think that the shows were top notch, and our production team, which had so many industry leaders and veterans. I mean, there was like 200 years of combined experience behind the scenes there on the production side at Maple Leaf Pro's first events. And the shows I thought were amazing, and to be able to highlight Josh Alexander and Mike Bailey
Oh
and Stu
man.
Grayson and so many of the other Canadians, like to give Takeshita a showcase that I think a lot of people hadn't got an opportunity to fully experience how talented he is. I was super proud of them, and I came out of those saying these are amazing. And then I sat there and kind of went, "Damn, how the hell do we follow these up?"
Yeah.
So I think that these events have a nice change of pace in the sense that we still have Alex Zane and Ishimori and Kiyomiya and great talent that's going to slay in the ring with that current athletic style, but then to have the NWA World's Championship return and have Thomas Latimer, who's I mean just a tremendous performer and has been a great world champion, to have him put the title on the line against the former Baron Corbin, Bishop Dyer, in really arguably his first major match since leaving WWE. And if you look at some of the videos and stuff we've put out, we've tried to focus on where Corbin, where Dyer is at this point. And it's a guy who doesn't need to wrestle anymore, like financially, but he's a guy who's still got a hunger for it, and he's out to prove something. He's been World Tag Team Champion. He's been King of the Ring. He's been United States Champion. He's never been World Champion. So here's an opportunity for him to do that, and I think that's a really cool match to bring here. Uh, Also, one of the things I'm most excited about is it's crazy to think of when you think about that the original Maple Leaf Wrestling started in 1930. It has never had a women's champion. So we start the tournament to crown the first ever Maple Leaf women's Canadian champions. So that's super exciting to get that underway.
So, I mean, that's another thing. Like you on night one and night two of your first event had honest to God match of the year contenders, not like great indie matches, not like good in a vacuum, good for the first event. No, two of the best wrestling matches in the world for the entire year, back to back nights. I mean, there's got to be like some sense of accomplishment there, and that you knew these guys were going to deliver when you booked this
Yeah.
match. You knew when you put it on that order of the show what was going to happen there, and then they delivered. They were who you thought they were.
Yeah, that I mean, I think it would be hard to ask for two better main events, and going up and down the card. I think honestly, just about everybody played their role perfectly and delivered. So, I'm excited. It's daunting to follow that up, no question. Like I'm not going to BS you following like those two main events. How do you do it? That's why we switch gears, and now we have two big hosses that are go out there and have a traditional classic world championship style matchup. And then on night two, we're going to highlight, the very best in tag team wrestling, where we have the Kingdom and the Time Splitters that are, I mean, I know are going to take tag team wrestling and just elevate it here as part of Maple Leaf Pro. And then you've got PCO. He's going to come in here like he's not coming in here to do catch can wrestling. He's coming in here for a street fight. So there's going to be craziness and Michael Allen, Richard Clark, the man with the longest name in professional wrestling, who I probably need to talk to him about that. He's going to get to experience what it's like to deal with a total lunatic when he gets in there with PCO. So when you don't have those Josh Alexander, Takeshita, Mike Bailey, Takeshita style matches, then you go out and you diversify your style. You do a little bit more hardcore. You lean in more onto the female side of the things where we've shown over the last many years that the women are able to go out there and perform just as well, and some nights better than the men, and you lean into a little bit more of the Haas fight. So I'm excited to have that mix and blend here for MLP Mayhem this coming weekend, and I'm confident that wrestling fans, if they buy a ticket and there's still limited tickets left, the place will be full both nights. If you want to come see it in person, hustle and grab those tickets. And if you don't or you can't, then you can get it on Triller TV, and it's a hell of a deal. I think in this day and age, it's $20 for one night if you want to just watch one night or the other because you're like, hey, I have to see that, but I'm cool the other night. That's your option. Or for $30, you get both nights. You get 6 hours of unbelievable wrestling for $30. And I've said it before. I'll say it again. If a wrestling fan plucks down $30 and buys this pay-per-view, I guarantee we're going to give them a return on their investment of their time and of their money. And if they don't think they did, then reach out to me and we'll look at getting you a refund because I'm not confident that this crew will deliver.
I'm so excited for this show. I mean, you guys hit such a home run the first go around. I'm really excited to see Bishop Dyer specifically because I think the way that he was working towards the end of his WWE run, I think it's going to translate very well to the independents as well. Like this guy has such an insane motor. Like he doesn't, I mean, he was an elite athlete. Like people forget how elite he was. But as I mentioned, like so many names that you guys know from Billy Gunn, Matt Cardona, PCO, Serena, Kylie, Giselle, Ishimori, Stu Grayson, Kingdom. That's just like some of the bigger names that are involved. Scott D'Amore, thank you so much for taking the time. Anything else you want to let the people know before we wrap up?
No, I think I'm excited for this weekend. I'd like to thank everybody for their support. Throughout 30 plus years. I feel like there's been so many people that in the industry, and certainly just as important, more importantly, the fans that have been the pick me up and been the support that's been needed for myself and so many others. So it's greatly appreciated. We don't say it sometimes enough. So thank you to everybody who's out there and supporting and come check it out. I know you're going to love MLP Mayhem.
Guys, until next time, we're out. If you're a wrestling fan and you're frustrated with all the services you need to watch all the different wrestling shows, Fightful has your solution with nordvpn.com/Fightful. Change your virtual location with just one click, and you'll be able to watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and PLEs on one Netflix account. You'll also be able to get a lot of pay-per-views at a much more affordable price than you do here in the United States. This is a must-have for wrestling fans. That way you don't have to have 7 different accounts to watch all of the shows that you want to watch. In addition to that, they have a great 30-day money-back guarantee and an incredible deal right now going on. But that's far from it. You can protect yourself on their VPN service, the fastest in the world, shield your data from snoops and criminals, protect yourselves on public Wi-Fi, and it's available on all your devices and operating systems. NordVPN.com/Fightful.